How did you approach mystic sounds? So I was thinking mystic was devotional or some kind of communication with mystery. So I bet Eric has a good definition for mystic.
Uh, well, I thought of it in terms of something that is otherworldly and kind of invocatory, something that summons up the spirits from another plane or realm, or alternately something that sort of propels the spirit toward one's own spirit towards another place.
Mm. Yeah, I'll co-sign most of what Eric said. I was sort of thinking of it in those terms as well. I chose a couple of records that are avowedly sort of spiritually oriented. Yeah, records that aim towards a kind of spiritual transcendence.
Ah,
So,
that was very succinct.
yeah.
So I picked this Swedish album, Algarnes Tradgrad, which I guess means Garden of the Elk. And I won't even attempt the Swedish name for this album, but it translates as "The future is a hovering ship anchored in the past" from 1972. These are Swedish teenagers that were allowed to into a professional studio, although they'd been playing together in live festivals. They really started using that studio in experimenting with their brand of space rock, which is somewhat psychedelic and improvised. The good thing about this is there's an intuition in the way they interact in their improvisational songs. So it's a two album set, and the second disc is a bonus disc with two live recordings from festivals, aren't as good as what they did in the studio. So, and there's something that really keeps this on the top shelf for me is whoever the guitar player is really talented at coming up with novel guitar parts, which is, it's not your standard progressive rock noodling or anything like that. The devotional aspect would be sort of a nature worship, although they have all these weird sort of religious symbols as well. And of course, when you look at the gatefold, it seems to be the standard hippie fodder from that era, 1972. It's repetitious, which keeps it from being entirely progressive rock, and sometimes creepy folk music comes in around the periphery. It's a cult classic and it was on the Nurse with Wound list of recommended listening. So I keep it in my weirdo prog section. So be a great addition for anyone that collects progressive music. And my second choice is Emhoy Segi Miriam Gabru. And this is a compilation, and she is a female monastic nun. In fact, Emhoy means sister. That's part of her four-part name. And I discovered this in reissues from Mississippi Records. It's either in classical or Ethiopian because she is Ethiopian. She studied music, piano, and violin. She's been recording since 1962, but a lot of those were shelved and then reissued by Mississippi Records more recently. Most of the recordings were done in Israel, and she plays solo melodic upright piano. There's these sweet little arpeggios that come through her novel melodies. It's enduring and rhythmic, and it seems to be, to me, devotional musical prayers. It's very meditative, sometimes hypnotic. It's repetitious but evolving throughout, sometimes quite peculiar. Um, it's good for quiet times, morning listenings, but they really are complex puzzles and when you like decipher the melodies and sort of see how she evolves them. It's got a bit of jazz and a bit of R&B. It's very eclectic. I keep it in contemporary classical mainly because it's when I discovered it.
All right, so this is my first choice. It is Pierre-Henri Le Voyage. What voyage, you might ask? Well, the fantastic journey from death to life, an electronic score based on the Tibetan Book of the Dead. So Pierre Henry is a titan of so-called musique concrète, which means using the studio as an instrument and processing sounds, not having anything scored really in any recognizable way, but kind of using the whole studio as one big synthesizer. And the cover imagery is very fitting because it is extremely blurry and looks like some kind of alchemical process taking place. And there's a real alchemy of sound here that corresponds to the theme. And so here he's kind of trying to populate that void with sounds. And it's a really incredible sonic mixture that he comes up with. From sources that, you can try to identify, but never will with any certainty. But there's all kinds of sort of spiraling sounds, and things that seem to have a sort of respiratory source, breathing, whispering, air being let out of balloons, maybe. Um, so you've got this transubstantiation of matter into spirit over the course of some 40 minutes. Evocative titles for things. We've got After Death, Peaceful Deities, followed by the Wrathful Deities, and then this kind of erotic sequence, the coupling. Yeah, it's all sort of one big modulated exhalation of breath, as one because breath is life, and this is sort of the last moments of it in this world. Second item is by Yanis Xenakis, and it occurs to me now that the mystical is a somewhat of a stretch for this because it's really the piece Medea that I like, and I guess the fact that I consider that mystical says something about me that's probably pathological in nature, because this is, of course, uh, a piece of music about the Colchian witch who kills her children in a fit of rage and to exact revenge upon her no good husband, Jason of Argonauts fame. Um, but this piece of music is really otherworldly. It's about 20 minutes long, and it is choral and percussive. So you hear these thundering voices and these thundering drum beats. Well, what's significant perhaps is that it's a male chorus. So it's really summoning up the wrathful spirits that take possession of Medea when she goes and kills her children. At least as I understand it, there's nothing feminine and delicate about this. This is the moment where she surrenders herself to these wrathful chthonic deities. Standout feature of most of his music, I think, is really its texture more than anything else. He kind of gets stuff that has a very different sort of surface and depth than what a lot of other classical or modern classical composers achieve. Actually, like many of his contemporaries, though, and again, this is what makes him a modern composer. Here it is scored, but there's this real effort to make the elements fuse into one so that their source isn't recognizable. So you don't have parceled out orchestral arrangement that you do in classical music. Here instead, encounter these washes of sound and these great big sort of blocks that. Oh yes, question from.
I believe it's based on mathematics.
So, and what is more sublime and otherworldly than mathematics? I don't know. I mean, pretty much anything by Xenakis is going to take you into that loftier realm, and but this in contrast, will take you to a deeper realm of primal savagery. And I guess it's a standout for that reason. All right, Chris, you're up.
Thank you, Eric. All right. So my first record, Popol Vuh's. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. I'm not so good with German. Eric, you want to just tell me?
I'm trying to read it.
It's like
Einziger,
Einziger,
Einziger und Siebenjäger.
and I think it means earth and sky, something like that.
Well, Jäger is a hunter, and there's some kind of idiom that I guess I don't know, but
So yeah, this Popol Vuh album from 1974. Popol Vuh were they're generally classified as a krautrock band, which can really mean anything. Krautrock wasn't really one style. These guys, they sort of had three different eras, I guess you could say. Like they started off as kind of an experimental electronics band. Um, then they moved into sort of a prog era. That's what this record is from. And eventually they were putting out like ambient, new agey stuff by the 80s. But for me, this record is sort of a peak. This is definitely, definitely a high note. So, I mean, I guess just to begin with the name, Popol Vuh, they named themselves after the Mayan sacred text, creation myths and such. And this is part of a series of just really explicitly spiritual records that they did. And this is probably like the most rock of the records. It's got probably the most guitar. But the guy who sort of led Popol Vuh, a guy named Florian Frick or Freak, he's the pianist there. He was working with this guitarist, a guy whose name I forget, Daniel something or another, and a vocalist. They teamed up with this Korean singer named Jung Yun, for a few of these albums, and she's on here. It's not wrong to call it epic. There's a sidelong track, which is basically, there's these circular guitar riffs. Florian Freak's gorgeous piano playing, this precise and rather busy percussion that works really well with it. Combined with Jung Yun's voice, which is as much an instrument as anything else. It just, it just sounds like another sound. And this is just a beautiful, transcendent record. And this is true for basically all of these Popol Vuh records. Their most heralded one is no, it's not this one, but this is the one I like best. So that's my first. And my second, switching gears a little bit, is this Yob album from 2011 named Atma. Yob are you call them a cosmic doom band, a psychedelic doom band, an avant doom band. However, from Oregon, they put out a bunch of albums. Most of them are incredibly good. All of them have a spiritual element to them. Their chief songwriter, the guitarist, a guy named Mike Scheit, he thinks in these terms. And this album, it's got a lot of this spirituality in it, beginning with the title, Atma. That's the Buddhist term for the self. But the music itself, it's, this is classic Yob. It's, Mike's voice. He can kind of do two or three different kinds of voices. There's a Geddy Lee-ish high register that I love, but which some people don't. There's sort of a deathy growl sound, and there's also a bit more of, kind of a soothing, almost a croon that he does as well. There's an incredibly dynamic record. There's, every song, like there's just pile driving, bludgeoning riffs that go on forever. But they're often leavened by these beautiful lighter parts as well. And overall, this is just sublime, ecstatic music. Kind of like the Popol Vuh record. Both of them, they trade in repetition, and and they build their power through repetition. So those are my two.
Mr. Ondiolin, I believe,
He looks like 22 pounds of catfish.
throttling the instrument. That's a great old-timey name.
We'll make you mute. We'll cut your larynx.
That sounds like a really bad scene.
It's like a rotting dinosaur. Necrophilia.
Oh man, not that word.